Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Clone Wars Commentary. I'm your host, Cheyenne, and I'm graced with someone's beautiful presence. Ahaha. Say hi, Grace.
Hi. What's up?
I'm not that funny, but I try.
You're hilarious.
We are talking about one of the most iconic arcs in all of Clone Wars and all of Star Wars, really. We are talking about the Mortis arc. I should really get like an applause soundboard.
But yeah.
Yeah. For after
Stream
I
vibes, obvious.
announce what we're talking about, so it can be like, ah. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. We should do that.
It's probably a really good idea. It would be a very handy tool.
We'll figure it out.
So let's just jump right in. I told Grace at the beginning of this that I don't know. I want to talk about this as an arc as a whole, like more of like the story itself of Mortis rather than episode 15, 16, and 17. But by doing it by episode, that's also what keeps me organized. So we're just going to throw it all around here and kind of be all over the place probably. So please bear with us and enjoy as well. But starting off with episode 15, it is called Overlords. And the fortune cookie is, balance is found in the one who faces his guilt. Grace, what do you love, hate, think about with this quote?
Okay. So, that makes me think of a lot of different things. Because in the one who, like, faces his guilt, kind of makes me think of, like, Palpatine, almost. Because, like,
yeah,
he eventually, like, comes face to face with everything that he's done over, like, the 70-something years of his life. I don't know. But, because most people, at least I would assume, would think of Anakin first. But, like...
I did.
Yeah. And, like, when I look at those fortune cookies, I try not to look at Anakin first. I always try to look at and see if it fits
anyone else,
someone else within the story before fitting Anakin, because, like, we know it's going to fit Anakin.
Right.
But who else would also coincide with it? Kind of.
No, I like that.
Yeah, and it's also sort of the idea of, not necessarily, like, karma, but kind of just how, like, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you are the one that has to, like, deal with choices you've made, and, like, have to be familiar with that pretense in a way.
Yeah. Well, and especially, like, with Palpatine, because I feel like he, made all these choices because he wanted to, but, like, when they go wrong, he has to have some sort of guilt, you know? Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, this might be a little bit out there to say, but in my opinion, like, Palpatine is very, like, sadistical and, like, masochistic in a way. It's like, he doesn't really, like, you can fully understand that, like, he is enjoying everything he's doing.
Oh, without a doubt.
Every step of the way, the whole time. He does not regret a thing.
No.
I think the one time he even comes close to regretting anything is when Mace almost kills him in Revenge of the Sith. And he's, like, just there with Mace before Anakin shows up. And as he's, like, dying in... Oh, my God.
Which
Episode
one?
9?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yes, because I'm thinking of, like, the time that he died, but he didn't.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he gets, like, thrown by Anakin Vader.
Into the shaft. Anakin Vader, yeah.
Yes, Anakin Vader throws him, pulls a Darth Maul on him, sort of. But, like, he only kind of faces the realization of what he's done in those moments. He never really recognizes it before that point.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
I would like to think of this, if I had to think of somebody besides Anakin for this quote, so balance is found in the one who faces his guilt. Probably Obi-Wan? Even Luke, too. Obi-Wan and Luke, only in regards to the fact that their Padawans turned out to be bad boys.
Ooh.
Bad guys.
Obi-Wan's a really interesting way to do it.
Yeah, because balance, I mean, he has to face the guilt of letting Anakin fall to the dark side when, in all reality, like, it's not entirely his fault. Like, at the end of the day, there's nothing that you can do to change someone. It's so...
You can only do so much.
Yeah, you can't change someone so deeply when it's already, like, inherently there.
Exactly.
So I don't necessarily... I'm not a fan that, like, blames Obi-Wan, but at the same time, like, I understand why he would feel guilty, considering he was his master. Mm-hmm. But he obviously finds balance because then he trains Luke and he, like, comes to terms with living, you know?
In regards to, like, guilt, I think it fits Obi-Wan, like, really well. Mm-hmm. Not, like, in a morbid sense, but because he's lost so many people in his life.
Yeah.
Like, he lost Qui-Gon, he lost Anakin, he lost Padme, he lost Satine, he lost the entire Jedi Council, like, his way of life. Mm-hmm. All within, like...
Such a short time span.
A 15-year span.
Yeah.
Like, such a short amount of time between being at, like, the height of his life, the peak of the cultural situation in which he was surrounded in, to being completely wiped out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like...
No, I agree.
This is my history nerd side talking, but, like, he's essentially witnessing, like, and I don't usually use this term lightly, but, like, it fits. He's essentially witnessing, like, a cultural genocide.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Like a complete...
Multiple times.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he witnesses it on Mandalore and with the Council.
Exactly. And even with, like, not even just the Council, but, like, the idea of the Republic. Mm-hmm. And like, how the Republic becomes the Empire, it was completely wiped out.
Yeah, all of it. Multiple cultural genocides. I agree with that. Yeah. So, wow, that quote just led us down a whole path. But,
it did.
So this first episode of the Mortis arc is basically the discovery of the planet. So they are on a mission. I don't remember what the mission is. Kind of irrelevant, honestly. They're on a mission, and at some point... They
got a mysterious message.
Yeah, they get some sort of message, and they end up not even seeing the planet, but then, like, being near the planet. And then they end up on it, they land. Yeah. I don't even know if land is the right word. They crash land. And they discover that this planet has, like, life and death, decay, warmth and cold, crazy storms, all this stuff. And it made me think about, and I didn't think of this until later on in the episode, but it made me think about what Rey says when Luke is asking her to feel out into the Force, and she, like, feels all these things, life, death, death giving new life, all this stuff. And I'm like, this planet is the encompassing part of that. So not necessarily that Rian Johnson was probably like, oh, I'm going to use this line and then make it this way. Or, like, I'm going to use this planet and turn it into, like, a dialogue. But the fact of the matter is that sometimes even when they don't plan it, things fall into place for Star Wars.
Exactly.
So I really loved that. I loved that we got to visualize what she said.
It made me think of Exegol in a way. It's like the whole idea of, like, having that, like, death and decay moment on the planet is, like, that's the first thing I thought of was Exegol. Because, like, it could be made not like a direct comparison or like a parallel, but you could definitely see similarities.
Yeah.
If you went back and looked at it.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if that was intentional necessarily, but, like, it was just definitely something I thought of. Yeah.
No, I love that. That's the thing. I always try to come at it from a, like, I don't think it was intentional, but I'd like to think it was intentional. Or it's now intentional in my mind. In this episode, I think one of the most important things we see throughout the whole arc of Mortis, or being on Mortis, really the point of it, is Anakin's trial. So Anakin has already faced, like, trials to become a Jedi Knight, just in general, and in life, really. And so now he's facing another trial by these strangers that he doesn't know that are telling him that he's the chosen one, and he's been told that really his whole life. Or even in the matter of, like, I don't know, here's a question. Has he been told that his whole life? I don't remember anybody saying that he's the chosen one to him.
I don't think so either. At least from what I can recollect, I think Qui-Gon says it to him.
Yeah.
But, like, not directly, sort of. Like, he says something about, like, there's something there. I don't remember.
Like, special about you or something.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And, like, it's made quite obvious that there's something about him. And even Shmi is able to recognize it in a way. Like, she knows there's something there.
Yeah.
And even if they didn't have the words for it, it was there.
Yeah.
Like, name or not, sort of. Yeah. It's like, I don't believe the words chosen one are necessarily used until he comes in contact, like, with the Jedi directly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
At least to my understanding.
No, I think you're right.
I think the Jedi are, like, the only ones to kind of use it. I think other people tended to have, like, other words for it. Kind of like how, like, different planets had, like, different names for the Force, or, like, different ways of thinking about, like, Force-related happening.
Like, the Lasats in Rebels.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't remember what they called it, but, yeah, no, I agree, and I think Chosen One, could be considered, or interpreted differently as well.
It's also very hero's journey.
Yeah. Anakin's trial.
That a lot,
what? The hero's journey?
Yeah, I mentioned that a lot, but, like, eventually we will go into detail.
I mean,
I promise.
hero's journey is, like, constant. In any story that you see, there's almost every story that you see, there's some form of that.
Exactly. Yeah, which I think is really interesting that they keep, like, pulling from that in a way.
Yeah, and I think that in a way, I mean, every story always will, simply because that's what interests us. We want to think that we're the heroes of our own stories, so then watching somebody else be a hero is also, like, just intriguing.
Exactly.
Anakin's trial is, to me, it's very, not simple. It's like, it's a basic understanding of, like, what's going to happen. You already know what's going to happen, because neither Obi-Wan nor Ahsoka are going to die at this point in the story, or in Anakin's life, or any of that. In the moment, I didn't know that. I was like, oh my god. The first time I watched it, obviously. But it also is so utterly deep into the relevance of, like, his attachments. Because literally, like, yes, everybody is a friend or a loved one to Jedi, but at the end of the day, Obi-Wan literally was like, you should save Ahsoka. Because in that moment, if Obi-Wan had been faced with that, he would have saved Ahsoka.
Right.
And it's not because he doesn't love Anakin. It's because Ahsoka is younger and not as strong. And so he would think Anakin can handle himself. He's going to handle himself. I'm going to get Ahsoka first, and then I'll get Anakin. But if Anakin dies, oh well. You know? That's the way of the Force. That's the way of life. Versus Anakin being like, I don't know how to choose because I've never detached from anything, even though everybody my whole life has told me to.
Yeah.
So, like, I know that the trial was his... Yeah. I know that the trial was his, like, challenge of power, but I love to think of it in the challenge of the mind, too, because I'm like...
Yeah, absolutely.
He didn't get the chance to be like, no, I have to detach, because he just doesn't have that in him, you know?
It's definitely not in his nature. It's not that he grows too attached to things. It's human nature. It's like people get attach to things, like, really easily. And especially for people that have been faced with trauma, like, a lot like Anakin has. Because, like, let's be real, he grew up as a slave until he was 10 years old.
Yeah.
The first decade of his life, he was a slave. And if that isn't, like...
trauma.
The most traumatic thing that a kid could experience that isn't other things that we won't get into, then I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's no good way that he could, like... I mean, there are ways that he could, like, overcome it, but at the end of the day, it's like there isn't a way for the trauma to just completely go away.
Right. It just never just disappears. No matter how much you overcome anything.
Yeah, and that's always been, like, a big thing for Anakin that people always tend to overlook, is, like, the reason why he is how he is because he is how he grew up. He was very attached to his mother because he was afraid of losing her.
Yeah.
To death, to being sold, to a bunch of different situations.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, people fail to realize that. It's like, he's a product of his environment. Of course he's going to be scared of losing attachments.
Yeah,
because it's like losing part of himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we often speculate on how many chosen ones there might be. I know I could have asked this earlier. I didn't think of it until now. But do we still think, based off of this trial and based off of the father being so determined to discover if he was the chosen one, do we still think that there are multiple chosen ones? Do you think that maybe they just fall into different timelines, or that he is literally the chosen one, as the father would call him? And do you think the father has done this before? Has he challenged a chosen one before?
I definitely think that there are more than one. Because, like, it wouldn't make sense to put the world on one person's shoulders. I just said that and it made me think of Atlas, the Greek myth, where he was carrying the world on his shoulders. That's essentially Anakin's journey as the chosen one. He's carrying the entire galaxy on his shoulders without people realizing that everything can't fall to one man. That's not how it works.
Yeah, and they put a lot of pressure on him. The Jedi Council did. They put a lot of pressure on that.
Right.
That fact of, or the prophecy of him being the chosen one. They were always so worried about him. I wonder if they just, like, overdid it. And, well, we know they overdid it. But, like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
There's definitely an element to, like, having multiple. Because, as I said, like, you can't have all of that on one person. It has to be more than one individual. I mean, whether it be that they didn't find anyone else and that they just found him and, like, assumed that he was the only one.
Right,
or
that's
they
true.
knew that there were more than one and were only able to find him, or, like, something of that nature.
There's a good point.
More out there.
Yeah, he was maybe just the option that fell in their lap. That's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. That's also to what you said about, like, was that the only trial that the father did? I absolutely don't think so. Like, there were definitely ones that came before Anakin.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I wonder what happened.
Especially because of how... Yeah, same. Especially because of, like, how structured the whole thing is.
That's true.
And, like, yeah. And because, like, having such, like, strong Force wielders, like the father, the daughter, and the son, which I love how they're named, by the way. That is, like, that's amazing writing. And I really appreciate when stories do things like that.
Yeah.
But there's no possible way that, like, Anakin was the only one. Because, like, then... if Anakin was the only one, then why are the father, the daughter, and the son so powerful?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point.
If he was the chosen one, he would be the most powerful.
Yeah.
But, like, he was equally matched.
That's a really good point. I hadn't even thought of it that way. So
yeah, I just thought of that.
I love that. So basically that's what this whole episode was based around. The discovery of the planet, the trial of Anakin, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka kind of being level-headed about the whole thing, and him not being so level-headed about the whole thing.
When isn't Anakin level-headed?
Exactly. I was about to say this big Anakin energy.
Say, when is he
level-headed? So in the end of this, the father tells Anakin, leave and your selfishness shall haunt you and the galaxy. Because the father is dying and he wants Anakin to take his place because he is the chosen one in this situation. And he's like, you've proved your strength, like you belong here. That's what the prophecy says, is that you'll stay here. And I have two thoughts about this. One thought is Anakin could never. He would never just abandon his life to do this. But my other thought is it's interesting that a prophecy, like the father, the son, and the daughter are literal family. Like they are literal, like, force-wielding family. To assume in any sense of a prophecy that somebody who happens to be considered the chosen one could just come in and control those two when the father can't even control the son. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's to say that the chosen one, just because they belong to stay there to balance those two out, means that they're going to be able to do that? They're not going to be able to do that, you know? Right. Like, the son doesn't care.
The son does what he wants. Yeah. He's a rebellious teenager who just wants to go to his room and blast My Chemical Romance at 3 a.m.
Yeah. And it's just so funny to me that, like, however these prophecies come into being, which, to be fair, the father probably wrote them.
Yeah.
But it's like, how would you think that your son would take that? It wasn't going to go well anyways. Exactly. After the discovery of all of this, they basically are trying to leave. So we're now in episode 16, Altar of Mortis. And the fortune cookie is, he who surrenders hope surrenders life. I think overall that's just a really good Star Wars common theme. If you give up hope, life just starts to go downhill.
Oh, that made me think of a thing.
Anakin at some point says, there's always hope. I want to say that's in this episode. And then, what?
I found it.
Okay.
But you can continue what you're saying.
No, go ahead. I have to go wash my fingers, so please.
Oh, you're good. So, when you said, he who surrenders hope surrenders life,
yeah,
it made me think of, again, history nerd moment here. It made me think of this one quote from the movie Schindler's List, who involves Liam Neeson, so, like, it's Star Wars, I guess. But there's this one quote, and it says, like, whoever saves one life saves the world entire. And I feel like that also sort of fits for Anakin in a way, like, in the sense of him being the chosen one, and, like, that he's, like, responsible for all of this life taking place. It's like it kind of fits the same demographic. I mean, obviously not the same situation, but, like, it's definitely a little bit of a parallel. Because, like, he is, like, a very responsible individual. So it's like, it brings a lot of, I don't know if tension is the right word, but, like, it brings a lot of, like, meaning to the whole idea.
Yeah.
Because, like, the idea of, like, one person being in control of all life is just, like, a very important sentiment, I guess, like, in Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's just the first thing that popped in my head.
I mean, excuse me. I wish I held that kind of information in my head, and I would be on the same page as you, but it never sticks around long.
That's a historian brain for you.
I lost my place. To the action of the episode, they start to leave the planet, and the brother has stowed away. And and Anakin has, like, a bad dream. Ahsoka's like, you good? Yeah. And the brother kidnaps Ahsoka, and they just fly down. Obviously, this begins a little speeder chase, and anytime I get to see Anakin flying is a good time.
Yes.
I really love that.
This is where the fun begins.
Yeah. And in this flight... Huh?
Spinning, that's a good trick.
Yeah, honestly, flying quotes from Anakin, iconic.
Love it.
So in this flight, Obi-Wan they're, like, bobbing and weaving all over the place, and Obi-Wan glances over at Anakin and, like, straight up is worried. And he's not worried about the flying, which is what he normally is worried about. He is worried about the intensity and the passion at which Anakin is flying this ship to get to Ahsoka. And I straight up never noticed it before my rewatch. I was just like, oh my god, this is so intense. Are they going to get to Ahsoka? Of course they're going to get to Ahsoka, but how? And Obi-Wan is like, oh my god, he's crazy.
It's a moment out of Speed Racer, because they do the exact same thing in the anime.
I've never seen Speed Racer. Oh, it's an anime. I was like, good. What? Yeah. That to me, there are moments in this whole arc too where Obi-Wan, I feel like, is exposed to Anakin's inner being, inner monologue, or just like
in a way that he hasn't been.
Yeah,
which is really interesting.
Yeah, and like, he doesn't say anything to anybody after this, like, no. Sir.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because, like, it's an idea of, like, rediscovery in a way. Mm-hmm. Like, Anakin is rediscovering himself. Obi-Wan is discovering things about him. Ahsoka is, like, relearning Anakin in a way.
Yeah,
like,
they've never seen the side of him before.
Like, exactly. Like, none of the three of them expected that, obviously. It's like, how do you expect to learn that kind of information in such a short period of time? It's a lot to process.
Exactly. Especially after you, like, did something you didn't think you could do. Like him literally ripping the brother and the sister out of the sky.
Yes.
The daughter and the son.
Power move. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my god. Listen, the way he acted in the trial, I was like, wow, he's crushing it.
Like, sir?
Also, the echoey voices throughout this arc, I love.
I love that.
It's amazing. Such a good element.
I love that.
Yeah. Such a good...
Whenever it's... And I think I've mentioned this before. I might have mentioned it in the Night Sister arc.
Oh, yeah.
But whenever that is used, like that voice effect, it's just... It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah,
I love
chef's kiss, honestly.
Because, like, it's so cool sounding.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it a lot.
It's awesome.
So, okay, so we get to Ahsoka being kidnapped, but it's for such a deeper reason. She is in jail. That's a loose term. She's taken prisoner, and there's this weird, creepy being in there with her. And I remember being like, what the heck? Like, okay, so the son, like, captures things and, like, keeps them in prison. Like, also, there's nothing on this planet, so who even is that, and why is it there? That was the first time I watched it. Obviously, after that, like, rewatching it this time, I was like, oh, this is the brother. So creepy that he decided to do this. And then he bites Ahsoka.
The weird gargoyle thing?
Yeah. He bites Ahsoka as the weird gargoyle thing, and then, like, puts the dark side in her veins, I guess. And
not gonna lie.
Huh.
That terrified me as a kid.
Yeah, it's gross. I hate him.
I had nightmares about it for, like, a week afterward.
He's horrible. He's so bad. Like, that's gross. Why do you have to do it like that? Also, like, why do you have to bite her? Yeah. I just...
It's like a reverse vampire situation.
Yeah, I don't like it.
That he's a snake? I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm
getting off on a chaotic tangent.
That's okay. He was so creepy about it, I guess, is the issue that I'm having. You know, like, he could have just been like, and, like, bitter.
He looks like... He also slightly looks like Nosferatu.
Yeah, like the snout area. So, he bites Ahsoka... She passes out, but also wakes up with, like, dark side stuff. Dark side eyes, weird veins, She's pissed. And when Anakin and Obi-Wan, or just Anakin, finally gets to her, she is like, Master, you annoy me. And I don't think you really are proud of me. I think you're a liar, and I think you need to turn to the dark side or die. And then they fight, but Anakin is not really invested in this fight. He's, like, very scared to hurt her. He doesn't really engage until later on when he kind of has to. He mostly is doing defensive moves, and his face is, like, really worried and concerned, which I appreciated, because I feel like what we typically get out of Anakin when it becomes lightsaber battle time is, I am powerful, I am good at this, I will beat you. But when he's fighting...
He goes head first into a situation.
Yeah.
Heart first.
But he's fighting somebody
first.
he loves, and now he's like, uh-oh, I can't do what I'm used to doing. How am I supposed to handle this? And also, have I lost Ahsoka forever? Ugh. So,
it's a lot to process.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, the type of relationship that Anakin and Ahsoka have.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people tend to say that they have, like, a father-daughter relationship, but I don't really see that. I see it more as, like, an older brother, younger sister type thing.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, like, I don't get where people get the other idea from, but hey, whatever.
Let's talk about that relationship real quick. I love them. I didn't realize how much that they're, and I might cry right now, which we know is typical for me. I never realized how much their relationship meant to me until recently. Even in season 7, I wasn't surprised in season 7 because I knew what was going to happen. And I knew that it was going to get to me. But I think now that we have season 7, and alongside my already established feelings of their relationship, I am so attached to them. I could never be a Jedi. I'm so attached. I cry about everything that they do.
Yeah. And, because, like, I was about to have a thought. I was like, wait, Anakin doesn't have any siblings, but, like, technically, he has a half-brother.
Oh.
So, like, because of Owen.
Oh,
like,
that's right.
Stepson. Yeah.
Is Owen her kid, or is that his stepbrother?
Stepbrother.
Oh, okay.
So, like, his sibling, but, like, not.
Right.
Yeah, and it's, like, it's odd to think about, like, when thinking of Anakin and Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. If we're viewing them from, like, a brother and sister perspective, do we think that, like, other Jedi Padawans kind of saw each other the same way?
Like brother and sister Padawans?
It's really interesting. Yeah, did they think of themselves like a family unit, or did they think of themselves all separate and, like,
I would say
no relation or anything?
It probably is a transitional thing. So I would say, like, the age of the younglings that Anakin killed. They probably don't have... God. I'm sorry to word it that way, but I don't think they would have a familial feeling towards each other. They're just learning, and they're babies, so they're just like, okay, and then they go back to their master, you know, and that would be like father, son, mother, daughter, mother, whoever, you know, like, that would all feel that way, but to each other they wouldn't. But I would probably say around Ahsoka's age, like, yes and no. Being, like, again, situational, because I feel like Ahsoka is never around. She's never at the temple, you know? Mm-hmm. But somebody like Barriss Offee, who has a few missions, and obviously we don't know as much, but, like, she seems to just have a few missions. So she's probably at the temple way more, so she probably does have a relationship with other Padawans that way, you know? Yeah. And they don't necessarily feel the need to seek it out because they have those relationships with their masters. So, like, Ahsoka never feels the need to, like, go to the teen Padawan party. You know what I'm saying?
The teen party where they're drinking jungle juice and playing... I'm just gonna stop my...
Jedi rocks. Okay. I lost my train of thought. It's not your fault.
tangent.
Yeah, we love a tangent. So the father gets knocked out. Oh,
Yep.
and the I keep calling them the brother and the sister. I know it's the father, the son, and the daughter. Just as like a preface for anybody who wants to come for me about that. I can't help it. I don't know why. So the daughter...
It would make sense, though.
Yeah, the daughter takes Obi-Wan down into this altar. We don't know what the altar is for other than the blade that they get from it. But later on, the father even says, like, you took him down to the altar. She's like, I didn't have a choice, or I didn't know what else to do, or how to stop him. And I want to know, like I said, what else the altar might have been for besides the blade. Or, I mean, obviously it could have just been for that blade because apparently it also can do anything to any of them. But the blade is supposed to... Huh? What?
You just made me think of something.
Oh, what?
You said, like, the altar could hold more than just the blade.
Mm-hmm.
When you said altar, it immediately, and, like, the blade,
Mm-hmm.
it immediately kind of made me feel kind of like a religious kind of reference.
Mm-hmm.
Like, throughout various religions, there are, like, significant objects of importance.
Yeah.
So, like... Maybe it's the same way, in a way.
Yeah. No, I can see that perspective. Like, they're like, you can't touch it. Nobody can touch it.
Right.
I just want to know. I want to know why there's always an item where immortal beings, or not so immortal beings, but beings that are, like, supernatural and super powerful, still have an item that can kill them somewhere. I like it, don't get me wrong. That's important.
Yeah.
But it's so...
That's just how writing works.
Yeah, it's just how story writing works. Because it's so funny to me. It's like, there's nothing that can kill them. Oh, well, okay, bye. Roll credits.
Yeah. It's the Superman kryptonite.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, you guys. Okay, so Dad comes in to break the fighting. Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And the father, but also Dad. So he comes in to break up the fighting. That includes Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting Ahsoka, and the daughter and the son are fighting, and he's like shooting electrical red lightning at her. And she's deflecting a lot. She did really well. I also enjoy the fact that she's not necessarily using any detrimental powers to him. She's just throwing back what he throws. I really feel like that's such a cool light side thing to think about.
I love that.
So he comes in and breaks it up, and at some point the brother gets the dagger because Ahsoka took it because she's a badass and just flipped over and grabbed it. And Obi-Wan announced that he was going to throw it. Dummy.
Yeet.
Yeah. And yeah, you just gotta yell yeet as you throw it. You can't say it beforehand.
Yes.
What?
Ahsoka is the John Wick of the Star Wars universe.
I've never seen John Wick. I just know what you mean.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Unless I have, but I don't think I have.
Yeah.
Which one is that? John Wick.
That's the one where the badass dude in the suit, his wife dies, and then his dog dies, and then he goes and it's like, I'm gonna kill these people.
You named so many movies just now.
This is quickly becoming a John Wick podcast.
Yeah. Slowly transitioning.
Yeah.
Again, losing my place in my notes. My notes are in my phone. I gotta stop doing that. Ahsoka's being John Wick. She hands the brother the blade. The blade announces that he's gonna kill his father, the father. Dumb. And so the sister is like, no. And she jumps in front of him and dies. And the son is like panicking. He's like, what have I done? Which is very Anakin of him.
It's super angsty.
Yeah, and then he just like flies away. He just eats. Which I also had a thought. Because at some point when Obi-Wan needs to get a hold of the father, he sees the tower where they're at. And basic Force users, Jedi, if you will, cannot fly. They can levitate, but they cannot fly. And the daughter and the son can fly in their transformative, like, eagle, griffin, and bat appearance. But they can leap so high to get to that appearance. And I'm like, listen, Obi-Wan, if you just, like, focus really hard, I bet you could do it, too. So anyways.
Yeah, like, how...
Side note.
Like, how is he able to, like, do that? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I'm so high. And I know they're supposed to be powerful, but, like, Obi-Wan, you could do it, too. I bet.
Like, geez, okay.
Maybe.
Parkour. You took lessons from Cal Kestis.
Wow, I need to play that game. I played Battlefront for the first time the other night in a long time, and I was pretty good at the game I was playing, so that was nice. I even killed 2 lightsaber characters with a gun, not with a lightsaber. Wow. That was impressive to me.
I'm gonna go back and like do a replay of Fallen Order at some point.
Yeah, I need to too.
I missed that game.
I'm probably gonna do one of Battlefront and of Fallen Order pretty soon. So maybe we can use the Kessel Run Weekly page for that, and then just have that on there.
Hey. Twitch.tv Kessel Run Weekly. Hey,
we love a shameless plug. So listen, I was editing the other day, and fun fact for all you listeners that I'm sorry for how many times you have to hear me say it because I don't feel like editing it out every 5 seconds, but I say so much. And when I'm doing public speaking, I don't do that because I was trained not to. But when I'm reading and I have to, like, talk and then I pause and then I say as I look for my next note, it's so annoying. So I'm sorry to everybody else who listens to me say that every 5 seconds. I'm going to try and fix it. So when the daughter dies, see, I said again. We could keep a tally. She sees, or she doesn't die immediately. She passes her last light into Ahsoka through Anakin, which is interesting because I wonder why they needed a, like, conductive system for that to happen. But
electrical current?
Yeah. So she passes it through Anakin to give Ahsoka the last light in her, which comes back later throughout Star Wars. And we start to witness, as she, like, actually passes, we start to witness the breaking down of the planet and a literal broken balance. And Anakin still doesn't get it.
Yeah.
He sees so much while he's on this planet, but he doesn't get it.
He's a bit of a hardhead. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, he's a hardhead. Yeah. Sometimes.
And I'm like, you've seen so much, and I know that you forgot some of it because the Father made you, but, sir, the planet is literally deteriorating because the light side is gone, so hello. Please.
Sir, you need to figure it out.
Yeah. I missed this because I was jumping ahead of myself, but in the end, before he passes the light through to Ahsoka, the Father says there is no hope, and Anakin says, yes, there's always hope. Again,
I love that quote.
Yeah, common theme throughout Star Wars, but it really hit me harder that Anakin said it, because when I watch Star Wars now, and I think about the release order of things, and how I would feel based on seeing it in the release order of things, I feel it deeper, versus being like, oh, I saw Anakin first, so Leia doesn't mean as much to me, when in fact, because I saw Anakin first, she means more to me. Yeah. Even though they didn't plan on things like that, they took a line of Anakin saying there's always hope, and it makes me think of Leia saying, you're my only hope, and Jin saying rebellions are built on hope. Like, hope being the common theme not only pieces it all together, but, like, makes it mean more to me as a fan.
Right.
And I think that's just, like, one of the most important things about all of this. That's one of the reasons I stick with the show. I've been watching the saga as a whole this past week, I would say, either before bed or falling asleep or at work on my breaks. And one of my coworkers was like, why do you like it so much? Or how often, she asked me that, but then she also asked me, like, how often do I watch Star Wars? And I said, well, the saga as a whole, like 1 through 9, not in any particular order always, at least once a month. And I was like, but then I scatter, like, Rebels and Clone Wars in there. And it just, she said, oh, that's really interesting. She wasn't judging me. She was just, like, really, like, curious as to how many times I had seen all this. And I'm like, the more I watch it, the more it means to me.
Right.
You know? And I know that that's so cheesy.
Something else.
Yeah, but
like,
you
learn
something
new
new
stuff every time you watch
every time. It's like going to Disney and there's something new every single time I'm there. Even though I work there.
I was watching Return of the Jedi with my mom the other day.
Yeah.
And, like, I learned, like, a ton more about, like, Leia and about her and Han that I didn't know about before. Like, I never really noticed it until I was an adult.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice, like, how their demeanor changes and, like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Based off of what we're dealing with. And,
Absolutely.
like, it's a really interesting concept of, like, how something that you properly enjoy, like, you don't really get the full, like, you don't get everything out of it at once.
Yeah.
It's a
That's a good way of putting it.
Thing.
Yeah. Well, and even, like, what you said with Han and Leia, like, their mannerisms around each other versus around other people versus in front of other people.
Exactly.
Versus to themselves. You know, like, Leia in front of a group of fighter pilots is awesome and in charge, and her in front of Han is like, I don't know. You know?
Yeah. And it's like, also to, like, bring it back to Anakin and Ahsoka. They do the same thing in a way. Like, you could definitely see mannerisms of different people in Ahsoka.
Oh, yeah.
And this is even going as far as into season 7. Because, like, not only does she have a significant relationship with Anakin, but she also has, like, a significant relationship with Obi-Wan. She has a relationship with Padme. She has a relationship, like, with Barriss in a way.
Yeah.
She's experienced things with
Rex.
Ventress. It's like, you can tell that she's, like, learning from all these people and then just carrying it with her.
Yeah. I feel like her relationship with Padme is so important in regards to that.
It is. And people forget about it. And it's, like, one of my favorite kind of moments. Is, like, she carries these people with her, like, throughout her whole journey.
Yeah.
And this is even, like, a little bit of a glimpse into, like, season 7 and into Rebels, and a hint at the end of this arc. But the whole thing, like, with the daughter and, like, the symbolism of Morai, I believe is the name of the bird.
I think so.
And, like, this is even, like, after this arc, so from the Mortis arc until where she is now, which I won't spoil, where she is now currently in canon, Morai follows her.
Yeah.
Because, essentially, this is jumping ahead a little bit.
That's all right.
But after this experience, Ahsoka carries the daughter, the good side of the Force, with her through everything.
Yeah.
As, like,
it's like, yeah, it's a reminder. Like, it's a part of her.
Right.
It is incredible because...
Also,
what?
That's also something that a lot of people forget, is that, like, Ahsoka just she carries almost as much as Anakin, but in a different kind of way. Like, it's not really, like, in a traumatic sense, but, like, in a way that, like, she has accepted the responsibility of what she carries, and she doesn't carry it with grief and with guilt and with, like, resentment.
Right.
She carries it well. She
looks for it. She seeks it out. She looks around whenever she's in a situation where she's like, Morai is probably here with me, or Morai should be here with me.
And she does it in the way that she was taught through the Jedi.
Yeah.
This is the way, as it were.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that up, too, because I believe where she currently is in canon, somebody brought up the point that she still holds beliefs from the Jedi, especially in regards to feelings and attachments.
Absolutely.
And I think that's so interesting to think about because she has seen so much between then and now. in regards to canon, not the podcast. It's all very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
And it's also important as to why she's so important to lots of people, you know?
Yeah, and also a thing about this arc is, like, you can tell after this arc that, like, there's a significant change in how these characters interact.
All three of them.
From season... Yeah, Mortis is season 3,
yes.
right?
Yeah, we're in season 3.
Okay, so from season 3 all the way to season 7, you can tell that they're, like, changed people.
Yeah, even though they don't remember it entirely.
Right, exactly. And that's also another thing to, like, go back on what I was saying earlier about Anakin, like, experiencing trauma. Not necessarily, like, this is, like, a PTSD traumatic experience for the three of them, but it's definitely an experience that is something that you won't necessarily walk away from, but something that they would always have with them in a way.
Yeah.
And that would continue to influence their lives.
Yeah, it's a deep-seated internal thing. It's not necessarily a memory, but it's a feeling, and their whole religion, their whole life is based off of feeling. So if it's there subconsciously, regardless, they are going to know that something else is within them. So, and it makes me wonder, because I did bring this up a couple times throughout my notes, is Anakin being so not welcoming to the dark side, but understanding of it in these 3 episodes. Yeah,
he's like willing to at least look at that perspective.
Right.
And see it for what it is, and not for what people are telling him.
And he sees it in a way that's like, I'm doing it for you, not for me.
Exactly.
I'm doing it because I want to help those that I love. Like, Obi-Wan, I can't leave Ahsoka to this, or I have to save the galaxy from the Emperor, so I'm doing this for all of you, even though he's honing on the dark side, you know, and he just doesn't recognize that. But it lives within him forever. And the brother, we're jumping already into episode 17, so we'll just keep going. This is kind of what I meant about, like, not forcing it, but I can't help it sometimes because I need to be organized. So 17 is Ghosts of Mortis, and Anakin in this one sees his future. And again, at the end of this arc, it's all erased from their memories. They wake up as if this has been a dream the whole time. And that they were just kind of off cams and off site for a little bit. But as we've been saying, it lives somewhere within them, and it makes me curious to think about Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. Do they remember Anakin's experience, or do they remember only their own? And vice versa. Does Anakin remember anything that happened with Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, or does he only remember, or not even remember, but does he only feel the things that the brother did to him? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or, like, do they sort of remember, like, how they saw Anakin differently?
Right. Yeah, like, do they remember feeling Anakin do bad things, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's so, like,
weird.
It's really interesting, even thinking of it, like, outside of a Star Wars perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was doing a little bit of research as to, like, how people kind of view this episode in regards to relationships. And it made, at least from people I know that are familiar with Star Wars as much as we are, outside of the Counts Run Weekly circle, but, like, still within Star Wars fandom.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a couple different people, and they were saying, like, well, watching Obi-Wan and Ahsoka see Anakin differently kind of made people think about, like, oh, I remember when I saw this person in my life differently than I'd seen them before. Like, I saw them in a very vulnerable moment, and they don't necessarily remember it, but I do. It's, like, a very similar situation where...
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, like, where people sometimes, like, they'll just, like, let a wall down that they wouldn't normally allow allow to happen.
I wonder,
And
too,
then
because...
of that,
Yeah, because even further, like, Ahsoka later on in the seasons, I'm pretty sure, this is just off of memory, so who knows, she voices her concern for him multiple times as far as the dark side goes. So,
she does, yeah.
I wonder if that's, like, a deep-seated memory. Or, I mean, obviously she's concerned for him because she should be, but deep-seated memory of he's done this before.
Yeah.
And he'll do it again.
My one thing that I'm also kind of curious about, and it's like, this is my one Padme reference.
One?
I have to bring it up. But do you think Ahsoka, or like Obi-Wan, or even Anakin, ever discussed anything like this with Padme after experiencing it? Because, like, Padme was there when Anakin killed all the Tusken Raiders.
I would say Obi-Wan, no.
Obi-Wan, no. Okay.
No, because he probably, here's my prediction of Obi-Wan, he meditates his feelings away. He meditates his experiences into, like, a logbook of, he's a journaler, like, internally, like, this is what happened to me today, this is how I handled it, it is now gone, it's a past experience, this is what I learned from it, and I will not hold it near and dear to my heart, and I will not let it define my future, sort of behavior.
Yeah.
I think Ahsoka, yes. I think Ahsoka probably was just like, oh my gosh, like, Anakin did this today, it was so funny, or Anakin did this today, I'm kind of worried about him, or like, I appreciate Anakin so much for this, and, but I also, to a certain extent, I would consider that she wouldn't be coming at it from a perspective of, just venting, more so like her knowing Padme and Anakin. Yeah, and also understanding that she can't go and talk to anybody else about it because it's not supposed to be real. Right. But also say, like, she obviously has some restraint, you know? She can talk to Anakin about the things they've experienced together. So I don't think Padme's, like, a release for her. It's just, like, if in happenstance. In all of their travels together, you know, it can be things that she's mentioned, but it's never, like, seeking her out.
The reason why I was... Yeah. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
sorry.
Go ahead.
The reason why I was thinking of it was because, like, of the things that Padme has witnessed, like, for Anakin.
Yeah.
Like, she, like I said, like, she witnessed him killing the Tusken Raiders. Witnessed, like, the grief that he had when his mother died. And, like, bringing her back to the homestead. And, like, his fear that he has for her, like, throughout the whole Clone Wars. And even, like, into Revenge of the Sith. Because, like, Season 7, I almost said Episode 7. Season 7 coincides directly with Revenge of the Sith. Through that entire season, he's fearful. He's afraid. He doesn't know what's going to, like, become of everything. So it's like, I would definitely be able to see that, like, he says to her one day, like, oh, this happened. Like, I want to, not to, like, vent to her, but, like, kind of not make her understand, but, like, give her an opportunity to understand. That, like,
give her a reason as to why he's feeling the way he is, or, like, why he might be moping around the house.
Exactly.
I think, too, I think he would, he would express things like that, but I don't think he would, God, what's the right word? I think he would put it up with like, how he says in, Revenge of the Sith when he's like, I won't let you die giving childbirth, or I won't let you die, and she's like, I won't die giving childbirth, and she's like, I promise, and he's like, no, I promise you. I think he would very much, like, be the type of guy to be like, no, I'm doing this because of this. And he wouldn't, like, make it a discussion. He would just be like, this is what made me feel this way, and that's it. End of story.
He reminds me of, like, a couple different other fictional characters, too, that, like, do very similar things. Like, in motivation to, like, protect the ones they love. Like, that's a very...
common theme.
It's a... Yeah, like there's this one phrase that like that's been going around recently. It's like he's a himbo.
I don't even know what it means, but I do know what you're talking about.
A himbo is like where this guy is like he's like a big tough dude, but like he's a softie and like he respects women, but like and he's like, yeah, ladies are badass.
Oh my god.
But as soon as somebody goes to like threaten somebody that he loves, he'll like dukes up and want to stab someone. Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome. Gavin told me about that earlier today.
That's so funny. I mean, I've seen it everywhere. I just never felt like looking it up, and now I know. The more you know.
It's very Anakin-esque.
That would also be a good soundboard sound. The, like, sprinkles of pixie dust with, like, the more you know.
Yes.
The last thing I want us to leave with, because really the ending episode is just kind of them trying to get to the ship before the sun, after Ahsoka has the light brought back into her, and Anakin faces his dark self. Yes. Technically. Yeah. And Anakin and the father end up killing the son through, like, a betrayal. And the son reveals he had some good left in him in the conversation that he had with the father. But, before the father dies, he tells Anakin to beware of his heart. That, to me, was, like, the larger message beyond all of this. All of them need to beware of their heart, because Obi-Wan's attachment to Anakin makes it harder for him to detach in the end, which we know. Anakin's attachment to literally anything is a problem. Yeah. And Ahsoka's attachment to, like, her comfort, I would say, which we obviously see her overcome, too, when she leaves the Order. So, it's just an overall, like, really good message to every one of them, but especially to Anakin. Yeah. Very simple and straightforward, which I love. So, that's all I got. Yeah. Do you have any last-minute thoughts? I'm sorry if I threw you off.
No, you're fine. When the father dies, his body vanishes.
Didn't
and, like,
remember
the whole
that.
idea of, like, the vanishing, like, I almost said corpse, which is, like, a really morbid way of saying it. But, like,
yeah, the vanishing, like, force being.
Yes, that whole thing, when that happens, like, through the forest, because, like, somebody is, like, passing into the force. I like how that's, like, a theme. It's a very, like, not really, like, a comforting sentiment, but, like, I think it's really interesting that it carries across
all the platforms.
Whether you're, like, a Jedi or not. Because, like, it happens to the father. He's not a Jedi. Happens to the son. Happens to the daughter, technically.
Technically.
And, like, Leia happens Ben.
Happens with Luke.
Doesn't happen to Qui-Gon.
Dang.
I just thought of something. It doesn't happen with Qui-Gon, but it happens with everyone else. What does that mean?
They didn't think of it soon enough. They were like, we forgot.
Or, it happens to Obi-Wan.
Or, hear me out. This is so dumb. What? Qui-Gon wasn't wearing a robe. His robe was off because he was in fighting mode. All of the other ones that died were in a robe.
I didn't think about that.
Because I thought about... So let me tell you why I thought about this. I was watching Last Jedi today, and Luke passes away into the Force, and his coat, like, flies away, his robe flies away, and I was like, you know what? Obi-Wan died, but his robe fell to the ground. Yoda passed away, and his robe was left. Or the robe under Qui-Gon, I guess, was left, which is interesting because it's Qui-Gon's robe. And that was left after Yoda passed. Yoda didn't have his own robe on, but he had a robe on. This is like a whole theory now. The robe.
We need to have, like, a separate episode just about that theory.
Does the robe matter? Yes or no?
I love that.
I'm going to go with yes.
Sorry, tangent.
That's okay. That was so funny that you... I mean, you brought up, like, such an important aspect, and I was like, the robes. The robes. That's all I had. The Mortis arc is one of the best arcs, one of the most iconic, for sure. It's
one of my favorites.
Yeah, me too. Gave us so much lore. Leads us into things in Rebels, like you mentioned earlier, like Morai the bird, the owl, I guess I would say. I almost said war. I can't even say what I almost said. I don't even know. I don't know what it was. I had a stroke. World Between Worlds as well in Rebels. For those of Clone Wars commentary listeners that haven't seen Rebels, I highly recommend. Just as good as Clone Wars. Right? Huh?
That's in the last season or the third season? I don't remember.
Last season.
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I haven't watched Rebels in a while. I'm currently rewatching. Yeah. I keep pressing play when I go to sleep, and then I keep waking up and going, oh, I missed it. And so then I end up back at episode 1, and then I keep falling asleep. And I'm like, there's only so many times that I can watch Ezra get off of Lothal.
Yeah. Like, surprisingly, and, like, this is probably, and I don't even mean this, like, as a weird tangent, but this is probably the longest I've gone without, like, watching Star Wars stuff. Yeah. Because I've been watching stuff for classes.
Yeah, I feel that.
I think that's diving headfirst into the Outlander fandom. Like,
I think that's what's making me do that. I'm like lost time. I lost all my time during school, so now I'm watching the saga every single week. Okay, that's all I had for those of you out there listening. Thank you, Grace, for being here. Tell the people where they can find you. Yeah.
You can find me as the head mod and admin over at our Twitch page and Discord server, twitch.tv/KesselRunWeekly. And then I am also on Twitter at Amidala_716.
Nice. You can find me personally at CJerica on Instagram, CJerica95 on Twitter, or you can read my blog posts at thekybercrystal.wordpress.com. Crystal does have 2 L's. There have not been posts in a long time. That's just because school and all sorts of things. I do have some posts in mind, so maybe they'll pop up pretty soon. I'm thinking like a What If series, you know, like they're doing What If with Marvel, but like What If in blog posts for Star Wars. That might be cool.
If you want help, let me know.
I will. I'll let you know. That's where you can find me personally, but you can follow the main channel, Kessel Run Weekly, at Kessel Run Weekly on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Also go to twitch.tv/Kessel Run Weekly for any of our streams. I know Danny's looking forward to a friend stream pretty soon, either Among Us or Phasmophobia. Never played Phasmophobia, but we'll see. I'm really bad at Among Us.
Phasmophobia.
Yeah, you can do that. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to. I don't know if I'm gonna handle that. And yeah, join the Facebook group, Kessel Crew. We don't have too many discussions going on right now, but we are focusing on The Mandalorian Season 2, which is really fun. Sometimes we do polls over there. And check out the website, KesselRunWeekly.com. It'll lead you basically anywhere you need to go to check out the rest of our content. Thank you so much for listening. Grace, again, thank you so much for being here, and may the Force be with you.
Always.